Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my favorite albums of 2022. It is 2023. Hopefully I'm a little more in time than I was last year. You know, hopefully we're not too late for list season, although I might already be. I actually got my mic working this year. I bought an adapter for my phone, so hopefully that should be working now. You might hear a little jiggling around like that. Hopefully not too much though. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about the music that came out this year because this year was almost as good as 2021. I was very nervous most of the year. Like the first 8 months, I was like, oh, there's not enough coming out. And then like the last 4 months just blew me away. Like album after album after album. So good. So this is my second time doing this. So if you've already seen the last one, then you could probably skip this part. I'll put a timestamp up right now. But I'm just going to give a quick disclaimer. The disclaimer is pretty much the same as last year. I don't listen to every genre of music. I might not listen to your favorite album of this year. I don't listen to every album. You know, I don't have the time to listen to everything. And I don't want to force myself to listen to everything. So this is going to be just my list of my favorite things. Also, the other disclaimer is that, you know, this is a personal list. It is my favorite albums, not saying that any of these are the best albums. This is completely subjective. Music is subjective. All art is. So I think that's important to say. Next, let's just get into the rules real quick. So this video is going to be broken up into 3 segments. It's going to be my liked section, my loved section, and my favorite section. Did you hear that? So this video is going to be broken up into 3 segments. It's going to be my liked section, my loved section, and my favorite section. The liked section is just going to be albums that, you know, I like. It's as simple as that. Albums that I was able to pull a decent amount of songs from, but I don't love every song. That's about it. The loved section is going to be any album that I love, you know, where I like pretty much every song. I love, you know, the holistic experience of the album, but it's just not enough to scratch into my favorite tier. And my favorite tier is basically my album of the year category. These are all albums that I'll love forever and have made my year something special. And I think all of you should listen to all these albums. With every album, I'm going to be putting up a little visual at the end, just a way to show how I felt about every song. I'll put one up right now from last year. So as you can see, we have the interlude, bad, meh, good, great, and amazing, and legendary tiers. Interlude is just any track that's like an intro or interlude that I feel doesn't really do much for me. Bad is just any song I dislike in any way. It doesn't mean like terrible, it just means I don't like listening to it. Meh is any song that's just kind of unremarkable to me that I don't want to have on because it's just kind of boring or, you know, it just does nothing for me. Good is any song that's like a 6. It's like a meh plus, you know, just a little better than meh. It's like good enough for me to have on my playlist. Great is any song that is great. I don't think you can underestimate the power of a great song. Just because it's green or just because it's right above good or just because it's 2 tiers from the top doesn't mean it's anything less than great. Amazing is basically a perfect song, like a 9 or a 10. It's just a phenomenal track that I love with all my heart, but that still leaves it short of 1 tier, which is the legendary tier. This is like my personal favorites. You know, it's my 11 out of 10, my 12 out of 10s. Just amazing, but also has that X factor that makes it super special to me. Any song that's made me cry, any song that's made me, you know, have an extreme emotional response to, which doesn't happen often, so not every album is going to have that, but that doesn't mean an album isn't great. And, you know, an album can be legendary without having legendary tracks on it. It's just my way of saying any song that blew my mind and, you know, is an 11 or 12 out of 10 to me. So with all that said, I think we could just get straight into it.
Shalom. Shalom.
The first album we're going to be talking about in this list is 5 to the Eye with Stars by Rap Ferreira. Now, Rap Ferreira is one of my favorite rappers. His album, Purple Moonlight Pages and The Diamond Cutting Light Emitting Scriptures or whatever, are some of my favorite rap albums ever. I think he has one of the most unique rapping styles I've ever heard. It's like a stream of consciousness, like slam poetry style, where every bar just fucking hits you like a ton of bricks, and then the next one, and then the next one. They all are just incredible. This is like kind of a more mellow, short little piece of his discography. Doesn't really come close to the last 2 albums I mentioned, especially Purple Moonlight Pages, which I think is his best work by a long shot. But it is a nice little listen. It's gonna hit you with those thought-provoking lyrics, a lot more mellow, a lot more laid back. Just a nice little listen from Rap Ferreira. Alright, our next album is Cave World by Viagra Boys. Now, I heard this one from a lot of lists, like Anthony Fantano's favorite album was this. I know a lot of other music pages on Instagram really love this one. And it's an album that I wouldn't normally listen to, but I did find myself enjoying it more and more the more I listened to it, even though it's so out of my wheelhouse. This is more of a punk album. Punk, rock, grunge, maybe. I don't know. Emo. No. But it's very, political. It's very charged lyrically. And it's very humorous, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think it's just a very funny listen. All the beats fuck, it's just really fun, really grimy, hits hard, and it's just about like crazy people who are out of their minds. And I think that's really funny. So definitely give this one a listen, even if you're not into this kind of music, because I think you'll come out of it enjoying something. Alright, our next album is Cheat Codes by Black Thought and Danger Mouse. Black Thought is one of the greatest rappers of all time, still killing it. Danger Mouse, a legendary producer, and they team together on this, and I think they do make magic, but I don't think I like it as much as most people. I find some of the tracks to be kind of boring. The title track, The Darkest Part, Because, Aquamarine, Close to Famous. These tracks just don't really hold as much weight as some of the others, and I think sometimes the beats can be a bit too mellow for their own good, and the mixing could be a little bit punchier at times. And I think the production is a little bit like grainy, a little too laid back for my taste, but some of these tracks are incredible. Like Bolis and Strangers really blew me away, and I think just a lot of the other tracks don't really even come close. That's not to say Black Thought doesn't fucking kill it over this whole album, it's just it didn't leave as much of a mark on me as it did for a lot of other people. Alright, our next album is Death Fame by Quelle Chris. Now, Quelle Chris has made one of my favorite rap albums of all time, which is Guns from 2019. And I just love fucking everything about that album, from the soul cuts to the really grimy, southern hip hop cuts with like really low subwoofer bass. And one thing I love about Quelle Chris that he continues on to this album is the creepy element. Like there's a lot of chilling, like sampled voices chopped up to say certain things, and it's just really eerie. Just the whole thing, just the soundtrack to it is eerie and creepy. I could tell this album is very topically dense, but I'm not really one to look into lyrics as much as others. I'm pretty dumb when it comes to that. But with the title Death Fame, the legacy you're gonna leave behind, and having fame even after death is something that Quelle aspires to. I think that's just what I think. But a lot of social commentary on here. Very eerie, very creepy. Some of the tracks, I think it suffers from some of the same things I don't like about Cheat Codes, where I think some of the beats are a little too mellow, but they are chilling and very great. And a lot of the humor carries over from Guns onto this album, but just not as much. But definitely worth a listen.
Yo! Mo lot of flicks. Well acquainted.
So this next album is Ghetto Gods by EARTHGANG. Now, I loved Mirrorland, which is their last album, a lot. It's one of my favorite hip-hop albums. And I think this one didn't really live up to that hype. I think they lost a lot of the eccentricity and energy that they were known for on this album, but they traded it for a more mature sound, which I do think is rewarded on this. With tracks like American Horror Story or Lie to Me and anything like that, there's a lot more of a mature sound, which they didn't really have, which I do love and I do think suits them. I do like this album a fair bit. There's some great songs. I just think that it's not enough for me to say that I quite love it. Alright, this next album is a bit of a strange one. It's Is This For Real by the Koreatown Adige. Now, Koreatown Adige's last album, Lil Dominique's Nosebleed, is top 5 rap albums of all time for me. I fucking love that. So going into this, I was very excited when his website described it as a rap album / comedy sketch / mockumentary, and I was like, okay, I'm buying it on vinyl immediately, and I have it. You might have seen it in last year's video. I think it kind of confused me and a lot of people while still having its bright moments. I think this album is trying to go for a lot more than it can do when it's like 20-minute runtime. I think some of these beats are kind of annoying, and I think his rapping is also kind of annoying on this project. I think his rapping is very awkward on here, and I think that's with intention. I think he's trying to be as weird as possible, but I think it didn't really pay off in the way that he was expecting. I think topically it is worth listening to because I do think it has a nice message, but other than that, I'm not really sure what he was going for on this one.
shine above you, linger a while.
Alright, so this next album is Linger a While by Samara Joy. I'd never heard of Samara Joy. I think she's kind of up and coming new artist right now, but definitely fucking listen to this. It might be a little too late. I think this album really suits the Christmas season, and that's when I fell in love with it. Samara has maybe the most beautiful voice I've ever heard, except for maybe her. Her voice sounds straight out of 100 years ago, you know, like Billie Holiday. Just Billie Holiday. She sounds so crazy, you know. It's just a voice that you don't hear anymore. To be in such a young woman, I think is so crazy to hear, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful album and some of the best vocal work of this year. Definitely give this one a shot. Definitely listen to it next Christmas, because you will be fucking blown away that this is, you know, not from 100 years ago. Alright, so our next album is Marlowe 3 by Marlowe. Marlowe is a collaboration project between LaRange and Solemn Brighams. It is one of the most exciting rap projects I've heard this year. I really enjoyed their last album, Marlowe 2, but I think this album really one-ups it, and it's so fucking consistently great throughout the whole thing. You're going to see that in my score. It almost feels like illegal to listen to this album, because every track sounds like it would be the best song on any other hip-hop album. But that is almost to its downfall, because every single track you're expecting the same quality, and you get it every time, and it almost becomes boring to listen to. And I think track list is a bit too long, but goddamn, he's just doing his fucking thing on here. This is some of the best sample work I've ever heard, and it's just some amazing rapping, great attitude, great voice on this guy, great energy just all around. A lot of MF Doom inspiration with like the superhero samples and the villain samples and shit, you know, comic book style hip hop. But yeah, very fucking good. If you've never listened to Marlowe, definitely give him a shot.
Yesterday I said I'm glad you came. She caught me cheating in them pictures. I said I was framed.
Alright, I just want to talk really quickly about the Melodic Blue Deluxe version by Baby Keem. Now, the Melodic Blue was a great album from last year, and it was on my list, and it was pretty high on my list. So I was very excited for a deluxe, and it gave me everything I fucking wanted. Now, there's like 10 more tracks on here. They're mostly okay, and they're mostly good, but some of them are very good and very fun. Brings in some very fun features. Just great energy all around. A great addition to a great album already.
Start sneaking up these for my niggas that say I ain't deep enough. Me, I've been talking for those that don't speak enough. Bitch, I'm a king, I'll repeat it, King Geeter.
Okay, so this next album is Melt My Eyes See Your Future by Denzel Curry. Now I'll admit I only put this on the list so I could talk shit about it. I do not like this album. And I wanted to say that somewhere because I know it's a very hot take. This is everyone's fucking favorite rap album. I'm not a fan. I do not think Denzel is at his best here. And I think a lot of these hooks are cringe. I think his rapping is kind of cringe. I do not like this like heady vibe he's going for. He sounds like almost like J. Cole on this thing. I think I think Troubles, I think The Smell of Death are awful songs. I'm just shocked because I was such a huge Denzel Curry fan before this. Unlocked is one of my favorite rap albums. You know, I love Taboo. I love Imperial. So hearing this was shocking to me because I just do not like it. I like Melt Session number 1. I think that's the best on here by far. I think Doechii is very great. Walk-In's good. I don't think it deserves the hype that it's getting. I guess this is just my hot take album. I just don't like this project. Alright, our next album is one that I expected to be higher. It's No Thank You by Little Simz. When I heard that there was going to be a surprise album from Little Simz, I was over the fucking moon because, you know, Little Simz is one of my favorite rappers ever. And I was so excited, and I was a little disappointed, I won't lie. I think this album is a lot more mellow than I was expecting. I think her rapping is top tier as always. I just think the samples are a bit too mellow for me. I think the tracks run quite a bit too long at a lot of points. I think the last few tracks are some of her worst in a while, but there are still some great tracks. I think No Mercy is incredible. I think, you know, the first half is amazing, but I really think it kind of falls apart towards the end, which I hate to say because she is one of my favorite artists, but that's just the way it is. next up we have Not Tight by DOMi and JD BECK. Now, I heard about DOMi and JD BECK from Anderson .Paak. They signed to his label, and I wanted to check them out because I've seen this album cover floating around everywhere, and I am fucking shocked at how good this thing is. It's like a jazz album, you know, from these two kids. I think JD BECK is like 19. He's like my age, doing this shit. Some of the best drumming you'll ever hear, some of the best piano work you'll ever hear, some of the best features you'll ever hear. Just amazing jazz all the way through. I think Not Enough standout tracks. I think You Don't Have to Rob Me is one of my favorite songs of this year. Definitely listen to that. And they just fucking kill it on this thing. So definitely give this a shot if you've never heard of them. So this one's a bit of a joke. This is Queeflemania by Queef Jerky. It's a bit of a joke album from Dev Lemons and Nick Is Not Green. And I only listened to it to hear Queef Stew, which was featuring Riley and Dignan from Hive Mind, which I fucking love Hive Mind. So I had to hear Riley, you know, on a rap song. And I was like, I'm obsessed with that track, unironically. So I like listen to this album, and I am unironically fucking in love with this album. I think it's amazing. But I actually love this album. I think some of the production is like really, really good, and I think it's just very funny. It like toes the line of hilarious and cringe very well, to the point where I don't even know what it is or how I feel about it. But I think at this point I know that I do love this album, and you might not like it. You might find it cringe, and that's fair. Just hear me out on this one. Next up, we have Dawn FM by The Weeknd. Now, this is a huge release from this year, right at the beginning of the year. I think it's been a year since it's come out, and it's a great album. I think it's my favorite The Weeknd album. I'm not a huge fan of The Weeknd. I like After Hours, but I'm not a huge fan of After Hours. But I really fucking like this one. I was hesitant with the album cover. It made me not like it as much, which is stupid, but that's the way I am. But I think the concept of this album is really amazing, and I think it's done very well with the interludes by Jim Carrey. I think he does a great job at setting the eerie kind of tone. It's a very creepy album about, you know, the afterlife and purgatory and shit like that. I think it's just super fun. I think it flows crazy well with tracks like Gasoline, Take My Breath, Sacrifice. The whole beginning is amazing. Again, the standout for me is the interludes by Jim Carrey. I think he fucking kills it on here, and Abel kills it, of course. I love this dance direction that he's going in. I think it's really fun, but I think a lot of the other tracks kind of weigh it down to the like section. But I do think conceptually, if all the tracks were, you know, all amazing like the other ones are, I think it would be in my love tier. That's why I'm wearing the shirt. I realized that I recorded it in the wrong section, so sorry about that. Alright, so I wanted to throw this one on here. This is She Her Black Bitch by Doechii. It's just a short little 4-track EP with a single she already had released. And I just wanted to add it because I think all of these tracks are very fucking good. I think Swamp Bitches is one of the hardest tracks I've ever heard. Bitch I'm Nice just does something to me. And then just the rest is quality all the way through. And then Persuasive with SZA is amazing. Doechii is like one of the most exciting hip-hop acts right now. Just got signed to Top Dog. Very exciting. So I'm gonna keep following her, and hopefully you join me.
I'ma need a bigger bag for the cohort. Tryna make a millionaire out of slum dogs. Bet that head crack blunt force. Cozy with the East Africans up north.
Alright, next we have Sick by Earl Sweatshirt. I never really listened to Earl Sweatshirt before this, but everyone was very hyped for his comeback, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And I like it quite a bit. I like about half of it. Now, I think when you listen to this, you can hear that there are two distinct styles going on. There's like that trappy, simplistic, you know, bassy, fucking laid-back Earl, which is the side that I fucking am in love with tracks like 2010, Sick, Vision, Titanic, Lobby. Those tracks are fucking incredible, but the rest is kind of like the Alchemist style, no drums, just rapping. And I think it's a little boring for me. I'm not really the hugest fan of that style. It's nice when it's on, but, you know, I'm here for the bangers.
This is Slut Pop. Whip your dick out. Turn your bitch out.
Alright, right, so hear me out. This is Slut Pop by Kim Petras. I think I've seen mixed reviews on this. I've seen that people say that this is the worst album ever. I've heard people say that this is a very good album. And I think it's a very good album. I think it's very fun. I think the production is slick and fast and just nice. I think Kim is really just fun to listen to on here. You know, it's very raunchy. It's almost disgusting at times. You know, it makes me want to look around my shoulder, make sure mom and dad aren't watching. But I think it's just really fun and I just enjoy listening to it. What's this, an outfit change? That could only mean one thing. That means we're in the love section. So welcome to the love section. From this point forward, every album will be an album that I love, and I pretty much love every song from, with few exceptions. So let's get into the first album of the love section. And then, you know, the song. Alright, the first album in the love section is going to be There Will Be No Super Slave by Eyez Guevara. Not sure how to pronounce that. I don't really know how to explain this guy. He's very JPEG Mafia-esque, you know, I think he's hugely inspired by him with, like, you know, the crazy sample flips and the crazy far-left politics and energy and the anger and the angst. And I think it's just super infectious on here. These are some of the craziest sample flips I've ever heard. Huge chipmunk vocals, you know, Kanye inspired, but there's also tracks with more mellow, creepy, laid back kind of samples. And I think he just kills it all over this project. You know, I think he's definitely somebody to be looking out for. I think this album's great. Alright, so our next album is Topical Dancer by Charlotte, Adige, and Bolis Pupul. I think this album is super fucking fun and addictive. It's like this dance, disco, funk album with very funny, snarky political commentary. And it's like very on the nose. This tackles all types of topics like racism, pedophilia, and immigration, and even like, you know, people speaking their mind about shit that they shouldn't be talking about. And I think it's just really fun and addictive and some of the best dance beats you'll hear ever. So definitely give this one a listen. It's super fun.
Trying to find a way to like not overstep.
Alright, this next one you might think might be ranking a little low. This is The Forever Story by JID. This is everyone's favorite hip-hop album. I think it's amazing. I really do. I think it's great. I think it's definitely JID's best album. I think it's one of the best albums on the Dreamville label. I think it's great. And, you know, I think this is a lot of his best work. I do think it dips a little in the middle, and that's my main issue. I think tracks like Radar, Dance Now, Crack Sandwich, Can't Bunk Me, System M, Stars, Just in Time, Money, all amazing. These are just a super consistently great album, but I think the middle with tracks like Surround Sound, Brud and M, Can't Make You Change, I'm just not into that R&B vibe as much as other people are. So it didn't hit as hard for me, but I do think this album is amazing, and it's one of the best hip-hop albums in years.
What the fuck?
Alright, so this next album is Simple by IDK and Kaytranada. I think this album just cements the fact that Kaytranada is one of the best producers out there right now. You know, bringing this dance house style into hip-hop and fusing it beautifully. I think if this guy collabs with fucking any rapper, it's going to be incredible. But I think this collab in specific is just magic. I think just from the first track all the way to the end, this thing's incredible. I think Drugstore is one of the best tracks ever. Dog Food, Taco, The Code is crazy. This album is fucking amazing. I heard that they're going to be doing another one. I can't wait. It's so addictive. It's just so good, so well produced, so well performed. I think it just falls short of, you know, being incredible, because I think it does falter in the middle. It's a little too short, but super.
I must start this campaign off right here. Everything I want at first I fear.
Alright, Shape Up by Leikeli47. You might not have heard of her, but she is one of the best rappers out there right now. This production on this thing is so crazy. I think Secret Service is one of the best songs this year. Free to Love is one of the best R&B songs of this year. Amazing production from front to back on this. I think it does falter a bit. You know, some of the tracks don't hit as hard as others. Some of the R&B tracks aren't as good as the bangers. But this is kind of just banger, 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 banger. It's a banger city. Definitely listen to this. I'm very happy I found this album. It's amazing. All right, next we have Raving Dahlia by Sevdaliza. Sevdaliza, I found from her album Shebrang, and I think that album is so unique, and I think her style is so unique. Just this cold, metallic, like dire art pop. It's so beautiful and chilling, and this is no different. This is just an EP. It's very short, but I love it as much as any of these other albums. I think it's amazing. System is depressing and is amazing. Great Hope Design is crushing. It's so industrial and scary. Human Flow is fucking gorgeous. The only problem I have with it is Everything is Everything and Oh My God, Sleep Next Remix, which is just a remix tacked on at the end. But I do think those tracks kind of cheapen it a bit. But man, this one's really good. Definitely check out Sevdaliza. It might not be your thing. Very eclectic. I think she's amazing.
They're gonna die.
We was out in Brambleton after Pooh got hit. Club Entourage in that new drop 6.
I just did my whole talk on this and I wasn't recording, so let's redo that. This is Almost Dry by Pusha T. I was a huge fucking fan of Daytona. I think that's one of the best rap albums ever, and I think this does live up to the hype, and I think it was worth the wait. I wasn't so sure about it until recently when I really kind of fell in love with this. I think this is some of Push's best work. I think it's him at his most focused, but I do think he's reaching his hand into too many bags at points. I think Scrape It Off is kind of a disgusting track. I think Rock and Roll is not very tasteful. And, you know, Open Air and I Pray For You are not the best tracks in my opinion, but I think the others are pretty fucking killer. Brambleton, Dreaming of the Past, Neck and Wrist, Just So You Remember, Diet Coke. It's just amazing tracks. I think it's not as consistently great as Daytona, but I do think its highs reach the highs of that album. Next up, we have a pretty crazy album. This is I Didn't Mean to Haunt You by Quadeca. This album blew my fucking mind. Shout out to Luke. He's been trying to get me to listen to Quadeca for years now. I never did until this album dropped, and I don't regret it, so thanks for being persistent with me. Sorry, I was annoying about it. But I see the greatness now. I think this is an incredible fucking album. Huge concept album. This is probably the most ambitious sounding thing on this list, and it's, you know, from someone you would never expect it to be from. It tells a familiar story with a very unique twist. It's from the perspective of somebody who's died and is trapped watching his family members grieve him, and he can't do anything, and that's terrifying, and it's portrayed perfectly on this album. Sorry for Dying, Tell Me a Joke, Born Yesterday. Born Yesterday is one of the best songs of the year. Tell Me a Joke as well. I think this album is fucking awesome. I don't know how the fuck he made this. This is the most ambitious album I've heard this year. This is every genre mixed into one. It's fucking insane. All right, next we have Fossora by Björk. Now, Björk is my favorite discovery of this year. I don't know how I never listened to her. I've heard of her for years, you know. I know she's has an amazing, legendary discography, and she inspired some of my favorite artists like Charli XCX and Caroline Polachek, Yule probably, Sevdaliza, other people on this list. And I fucking am obsessed with Björk. She's probably my favorite artist of all time now. I think she has the best discography in music. This is another addition to it. This came out this year. I actually was lucky to get the vinyl before it released. I was one of the first people to get it. This is Björk's like fungus mushroom forest masterpiece. I didn't enjoy it at the beginning, and I still have trouble with this album. I think this might be my least favorite Björk album, although I don't think it's her worst. but I don't know. I struggle with it. I think the opening track, Atopos, kind of sets the tone for it in a bad way. It's like a really ugly kind of track. I did like it. I like aspects of it, but I think I have a hard time enjoying it. And I have a hard time enjoying tracks like Victimhood and Ancestress and Trolla Gabba. Just really ugly, long, bloated tracks. But I think this album is not without its peaks. Like, I think Ovule is one of the best songs she's written in years. I think Her Mother's House brings me to tears every time I hear it. I think Fossora is fucking amazing. Free Fall is amazing. Fungal City is great. Sorrowful Soil, Mycelia. These are all amazing tracks. And I think all this is not to say I don't love this album, because this is in the love section after all. It just didn't come close to the greatness that I expect from every Björk album before this. Hey, this is Editor Billy. I just wanted to say that I really can't stress that last part enough. Giving it a re-listen, I realized that I was a bit too harsh on it, and I think this does provide a very unique experience within her discography, and I wouldn't want it to be without this album. So I really do love this album, and that's why it is in the love category, but a lot of my criticisms still do stand. I think I was a bit too harsh on Atopos, and I definitely should have mentioned Ancestress in the same category as that song. So sorry about that. Continue. I think, she's channeling vibes from every single one of her releases. Ovule sounds straight out of Volta. A lot of these tracks sound like they could have been on Biophilia, and Allow sounds straight out of Utopia. And I think she does sound kind of artistically rejuvenated on here, and I think that's amazing. But I do think some of those low points kind of drag it down for me, and that's unfortunate. Alright, next is one of the most surprisingly amazing releases of this year. This is Chaos Now by Gene Dawson. I liked a few tracks off of Gene Dawson's last album, Pixel Bath. I think, he reminds me a lot of, like, Kevin Abstract. I think he reminds me a lot of, Kevin Abstract and that kind of scene. But I think in this one, he's branching off far more into a punk direction, or rock, and I think you see that on the cover. Speaking of which, this is one of the best covers ever. I fucking love this cover. But anyway, I really love this album. I think the songwriting on here is amazing. I think the melodies are amazing. I think his energy is amazing. The guitar work, the production is great. Bad Fruit is fucking beautiful. It's like more of a folk track than anything. It sounds like something that you would hear on like a road trip in 2011. And then Zero to Heroes is amazing. All these tracks are great. This is a great fucking album. I was not expecting this, to love this one as much as I did. All right, next one for the love section, we have Hold the Girl by Runa Sawayama. Now, this is the last of the love section because I think it exists right on the border of the love section and the favorite section. Sawayama, her last album from 2020, is one of the best pop debuts of all time. I think it's a fucking amazing album. The experimentation on there, the way it blends genres, it jumps from genre to genre on every single track. I think it's so bold and so amazing, and her singing is fucking incredible, and the production is crazy. And I think a lot of that carries over. Her voice is still as good as ever. I think just she loses some of the experimentation. Now, I wrote a write-up for this album on my vinyl page. Go follow it. The link will be here or whatever, and in the description. And I think it was a good description. I think a lot of her best songwriting lands on here. I think topically it's beautiful. I think a lot of these songs are fucking amazing, but I think it loses that feel of where every track is so different and diverse. But I think it sacrifices it for a more cohesive listening experience, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I just don't think it lands itself in my favorite tier, but I think it's damn close.
I'm Markiplier. I'm Markiplier.
All right, new outfit. All right, new shirt, new Brockhampton merch. Thank you, Kara. I love you so much. New tier, new favorite tier. We're in the favorite tier. These are my favorite albums of this year, and we're starting off with a heater. We have TM by Brockhampton. This is my favorite of the Brockhampton albums that came out this year. I like it a lot more than The Family. This is actually one of my favorite Brockhampton albums ever. I know that's a bit controversial. I even bought the CD. It's signed by Matt Champion. I love this album so much. I think it's one of the best in a while. I don't know why. I really hated it first listen. What the fuck? What was that? The Family should have been the last one. What the fuck was that? Roadrunner should have been the last one, bro. Well, it's clear to me that they really wanted to get out of that contract. Animal, I don't know. Listerine was kind of bad. Crucify Me was alright. Duct Tape sucked. I was like, what the fuck are they doing? This is crazy bad. But I really had a change of heart. I love every single song on here dearly. I think a lot of the songs are very reminiscent of older eras. FMG sounds straight out of Iridescence. I think Animal and Listerine are something they've never really done. More of a Travis Scott hypnotic trap influence there. But I think they do it very well. I hated those tracks at first, but now I really love them. And then, you know, New Shoes sounds straight out of Roadrunner or Ginger, you know, Saturation even. Keep It Southern, Man on the Moon were just pulled straight from Technical Difficulties, which is great we're seeing those come to light because I loved those. Those were two of my favorite deep cuts of that era. And then Better Things all the way to Goodbye have their very own unique vibe, and I think that's the vibe of this project. It's like this southern hip-hop melancholy banger sound. Like, it's crazy. I think Duct Tape is the best example. It's so good. Duct Tape is one of my favorite songs of this year. That might be my favorite. Duct Tape. I should talk about Better Things. I think Better Things had the most profound impact on me. I was like on a hot streak because Keep It Southern, Man on the Moon, I knew those songs from Technical Difficulties and I was so happy to hear them. But the first 6 tracks, we don't hear Joba. But the first 6 tracks, we don't hear Joba. Better Things, it's this beautiful ballad sung by Matt Champion, which is so unusual. So that was like already euphoric to hear. And then the instrumentation sounds straight out of Stardew Valley, which is my favorite soundtrack of any video game ever. And I'm obsessed with it. And that was such a crazy combination. And that was just pure beauty. And then hearing Joba part the ocean on the back half of this song, like with his crystal clear voice, no vocal effects or any distortion on it. After what he went through last year on Roadrunner, it was just so beautiful to hear. And then having him be present on the rest of the album was just so beautiful. Unfortunately, there's no Bareface on this album. I wish he was present, but I'm really happy with what we got here. And I think it's one of the most exciting Brockhampton albums that we've ever gotten.
Monday, Tuesday, need to get some sleep. How many times can you wait in a week? No, I'm not playing with the strings I'm playing. Make these bitches go, cause they here and I'm
Alright, our next album is Natural Brown Prom Queen by Sedan Archives. This was one of the best albums of this year by far. I fucking love this album so much. You're gonna see the ratings look fucking crazy. Very purple. Yeah, but Sedan Archives is a new artist to me. I never heard of her, but I heard her from Fantano and I listened to it and I was hearing it and I was like, oh, this seems like right down my alley. I should be fucking loving this, but I wasn't. And then I listened to it a few more times, try to like stick it in my head, and it wasn't really clicking. And then it came to making this list and I listened to it and I was like, oh my fucking god. And I was obsessed with it for like a week. And that's where I'm at now. I'm fucking obsessed with this album. I think it's so fucking good. It spans so many different areas of music. And Sedan Archives can do it fucking all. Her singing, her rapping, her production. I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's so crazy how good this album is. Like, I can't even think about it. Like, I'll freak out. You just gotta listen to this thing. It's off the wall fucking bananas crazy. It's so goddamn good. Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. You've all heard it. It's a very good album. I can't really say more about it. Not his best album. It's not. I think it's probably near the bottom half of his discography. I don't think it's as good as Damn or Good Kid or To Pimp a Butterfly, but I think it stands on its own as its own vibe, as its own project, and then as its own statement. I think the beginning of this album is incredible with the first like 5 tracks. I think even the pop tracks on here are amazing. It does have some weaker spots, some of the weakest spots in his discography, in my opinion. You know, Rich Spirit Spirit is kind of a bad track. I think Purple Hearts is not that great. I think Count Me Out is not that great. Some problems on this project. I know Anti-Diaries is a controversial spot with him using the F slur. I do understand people not liking this album, especially with that being on there and with Kodak Black being on so much of this album. I see the statement that he's trying to make. I could say in my privileged position that those songs don't offend me or affect me that much, but I think if the LGBTQ community or victims of abuse say that that isn't cool, then I can't argue with that, and I think that's perfectly valid. But personally, I think musically, I think they're amazing, but you know, the ethics of it all is debatable. Other than that, I think some of his most experimental music's on here, his most exciting, but also some of his most boring and ill-conceived music that he's made so far. Great album though, otherwise. Alright, next we have a fantastic album from Yule. This is Glitch Princess. It's a glitchy pop masterpiece. I love this album. Maybe not masterpiece, but I love it a lot. I think it's one of the most unique styles I've ever heard. I don't think I've heard anyone else do this. Just so glitchy, scary, ethereal, art pop, glitch pop. It's amazing. I think the opening interlude is an amazing track, even though it's just spoken. I think it's chilling. I think Electric is one of the most orgasmic songs I've ever fucking heard. I think Flowers Are Dead is gorgeous. I think Fragments is crazy. Don't Be So Hard on Your Own Beauty. And then Bites on My Neck, which is maybe my favorite song of the year. That song is fucking crazy. It is like pure euphoria. I think this album is amazing. I think it has some lows, you know. You might be wondering on Spotify why it says it's over 5 hours, and that's because the last song is a 4-hour ambient piece. Haven't listened to that, so forgive me, but I don't think I will. Yeah, this is a great album. Super out there, and I'm very glad I found it. This is Motomami by Rosalia. This album fucking blew me away. This is one of the best pop albums of the last few years. I think it's absolutely incredible, and I think her talent and her ambition translates across language. As you can see, the first 7 tracks are all amazing plus. This thing is so fucking quality. I think it's so amazing to see an artist as big as Rosalia doing something so experimental. The experimentation is seen on nearly every track, just songs switching genres halfway through, just having glitches and distortion and stuff like that. I think it's so amazing to see, and I love to see artists as big as Rosalia pushing boundaries like that. I don't really have much to complain about other than maybe I don't find the balladry as infectious and as addictive as, you know, the moto half of this album, you know, the aggressive bangers, but they're still gorgeous and they still are beautiful to me. So I can't say anything bad about this album. This album is fucking amazing. I would not have expected last year that I was going to have not only 1 but 2 Spanish albums on my list this year, but anyway, this is Marchita by Silvana Estrada. This album is one of the most beautiful things that has ever graced my ears. Just pure beauty translated through music. I can't say enough about this thing. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like singer-songwriter, guitar, folk, Spanish. So good. It's so good. I don't know. I don't know what to say. This is just an experience like no other. Please just listen to this. It's so fucking beautiful. I don't know. It just does things to me. It's absolutely incredible. It will make you cry. It'll make you feel the most joy you've ever felt. This is just pure beauty in music form. Please listen to it. Alright, next we have Dragon New War Mountain, I Believe in You by Big Thief. Very long title, very long album, very fucking good album. This is another genre that I wouldn't have normally listened to. To me, it's like campfire music. I don't know the vocalist's name, but I think her voice is so sultry and gorgeous to me. And the songwriting on here is so thoughtful and beautiful and cute and sweet and sad and So melancholy. Like, there's so much joy and fun on here, but also some dark spots and very depressing spots. Some of the best love songs I've heard ever. Absolutely gorgeous music. Please listen to this. It's very long. Just stick it out. I don't think you're gonna find a person who doesn't enjoy this. I think it's so beautiful.
Back when we were still outside, church next door, we couldn't afford the ties. I was only 19, I was down for the ride.
It's The Family by Brockhampton. Now, Brockhampton is my favorite musical act ever. Maybe next to Björk, but you know, these guys, I've been following them for years and years and years, and this was the supposed last album from them. It's very bittersweet because this album, I think, is really, really good. It's one of my favorite albums to listen to. Flows super well. I do think it dips in the middle a little bit, unfortunately, you know, with tracks like Back from the Road, Basement, Southside. But I think it picks up right after that, going all the way to the end. It's a Kevin solo album pretty much, with some hints of Bareface in there, and it almost makes it so you don't even miss the other members, but I think you'll see later in the video that it does make you miss them. But yeah, it's just Kevin basically reminiscing on, you know, the downfall of Brockhampton, and I think it's really powerful and really sad and depressing. I do really like it, and if you take, like, you know, the topic aside and the lyrics aside and the sadness aside, I think this is some of the most fun production that's ever been on a Brockhampton album. You know, it's very inspired by J Dilla, it's very inspired by Mad Villainy, just short little bite-sized songs, short album, but it doesn't feel short. I think it's pretty great. Sorry, I almost forgot to put those up, but yeah, this is a great album no matter what people say. I love Brockhampton till the day I die, and I think this is a great addition, great ending to their legacy. Hey, I just wanted to say that I originally intended for this album to be in the love section, and I intended for it to be before TM, which is why it sounds kind of weird in the sequencing of the video. So sorry about that, but I also wanted to say, I know it's after TM, but I do not like it nearly as much as TM. I would say it's pretty much on the border of loved and favorite. I just wanted to bump it up because I do really love it, like a lot, but it doesn't come close to TM. That is my favorite of the two.
Into the water, gonna take you with me. I'm high voltage, self-destructive, and it also legendary.
If you know me, you know that I'm a huge fucking fan of Charli XCX. This is Crash by Charli XCX. Charli by Charli is one of my favorite albums ever, top two. It's either that or Pang by Caroline Polachek. I was very excited going into this one. The singles were blowing me away, New Shapes and Good Ones, and Baby, and Beg For You, featuring Rina Sawayama, who we just heard from. This album is fucking awesome. It's more of a pop direction, more straightforward pop, throwback 80s, you know, nostalgia pop. A lot of people were disappointed with that. They missed the experimentation, and I do too, but I think you can't deny that these are all just pristine, amazing pop songs. My personal favorites are Move Me and Constant Repeat. I think those are amazing, and I think she does keep some of her hyperpop sensibilities on here, like moments towards the end of Lightning with the vocal manipulation, and Constant Repeat is like that as well. I think New Shapes sounds like it could have been on Charli. I think that's a huge, great throwback with Caroline Polachek and Christine and the Queens, who has been an amazing collaborator in the past. I just think this thing's really great. I was lucky enough to see it live, and it was one of the best concerts I've been to. It was so fucking fun, and I'm gonna continue to be a huge Charli fan. I personally think this is better than how I'm feeling now. I don't think it's as good as Charli, but this is an amazing fucking album, and I think it's hugely underrated.
Hey, I made you a mixtape.
Next up, we have Capri Songs by FKA Twigs. This album's amazing. Another great pop mixtape / album, whatever. I wasn't very familiar with FKA Twigs. I've heard more of her ethereal music, you know, like Cellophane, stuff like that. And I was not expecting this kind of direction. I don't think anyone was. She's going in huge pop direction, dance, hip hop, electronic music, while keeping some of that shit she was known for before, with the beautiful songwriting and balladry and industrial electronic kind of aesthetic. You know? Yeah, this album is absolutely addicting. It's one of those where you have to kind of, once you hear one song, you got to keep listening. You can't really stop. Ride the Dragon's a perfect opener. I think Honda is the sexiest song of the year. It's fucking amazing. I think Meta Angel is absolutely stunning. And the way it drops is amazing. Oh My Love, Pamplemousse, Poppy Bones, Which Way, Darjeeling. This album's really fucking good. I like the interludes except for one. Man, I think this album's really fucking amazing.
Go demon,
forgive me, I'm kind of starting an unofficial 4th tier. This is just going to be my top 5 albums of the year. They're not going to be in any particular order. I think these are actually tied. I couldn't pick one above the other. And we're starting off with Demon Time by Muramasa. I listened to this album because of the cover and because I saw the vinyl art. It has this really cool thing. I'll put it on screen right now. And I thought, holy shit, that looks cool. And I've heard Muramasa's name through collaborations with Slow Tie and such. And I was not expecting this direction. This is like a really fucking amazing pop album with collaborations from many artists, from Shy Girl to Lil Uzi Vert, Pink Panthers, Slow Tie. This thing's so fucking good. Every single track is incredible. Like, it gets me going like nothing. Like, it gets me going like nothing. It's absolutely insane. Demon Time is one of the best pop bangers I've ever heard. Baby Cakes is fucking earworm. I didn't really like it at first, but it gets stuck in my head every week now. Slow Mo is one of the best hyperpop songs I've ever heard. Together has one of the best drops I've ever heard and some of the best vocals. Prada, it goes so hard. Holla Back Bitch is one of the sexiest songs I've ever fucking heard, with some of the best production and drops I've ever heard. Tonto is beautiful. Emotions is beautiful. It's just amazing. It's so fucking good. Ugh, dude, I can't say enough about it. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, this is one of the best albums I've ever heard. This is so goddamn good. Please listen to Demon Time. Alright, this one was weird for me. This is Nymph by Shy Girl. You might not see this on a lot of other people's lists, but this is top 5 for me. You might remember Shy Girl's name from Demon Time. She also worked with FKA Twigs on Capri Songs, which are also 2 of my favorites of this year, and she absolutely killed it on Demon Time. So it made me want to listen to this when it came out, and I also knew her collaboration with Slow Tie on BDE from last year. That was an amazing track. Going into this, I knew that I liked a lot of her work so far. I never heard her solo work, and I remember I listened to this and I didn't like it. I was disappointed by it. And then I don't know, a few weeks later I was like, okay, maybe I should try it again. And then it all clicked. I've been wanting to make a video about this album. Let me know if I still should. But it's like hugely reminiscent of music that I grew up listening to, like on the radio, like late 2000s to early 2010s music. It even samples some of that shit and interpolates some stuff from that era, and I think it's a huge throwback for that era, and that hits super close to home for me because that's when I grew up, and you don't hear a lot of music throwing back to that time yet. I'm assuming we're going to be coming back to that because I think aesthetically in the world we're kind of going back to the 2000s. So hopefully musically we're going back there as well. Man, it's some of the best pop I've heard. It's so amazing. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Please listen to this fucking album. It's so goddamn good. I don't even know. I've been rambling this whole video. Let me just have a heart to heart. Heart to heart. I've been rambling this whole video. I've been feeling like I haven't been saying much because I don't know. Like, a lot of the music that came out this year was not easy to quantify or, you know, put in categories. So yeah, I've been just kind of rambling saying, oh, this is amazing. It's amazing. Oh, it's amazing. Listen to it. It's great. It's beautiful. Oh, great. It's beautiful. You know, so pardon me. Sorry about that. I hope this is a watchable video. I feel like I'm a broken record on these records, but listen to The Nymph by Shy Girl. I know I keep saying this, but this is another surprise album for me. This is an artist that I hadn't listened to before. I know Titanic Rising is a fan favorite in this kind of pop sphere, but I'd never listened to it. But I saw a lot of hype surrounding this before it released, and once it did release, it blew my fucking mind. This is And in the Darkness Hearts Aglow by Waze Blood, if you don't already know. I just couldn't believe how beautiful this album is. It's definitely top 3 of this year. It's it's just fucking amazing. I did a more in-depth writing about this album on my vinyl page, and this album is just crazy. Like, I think the 3-track run of Grapevine, God Turned Me Into a Flower, and Hearts Aglow is probably the best 3-track run of this year. Those are all those are probably top 3 songs of this year ever. Like, it's so fucking good, and I have them right next to each other. And then to have Twin Flame, It's Not Just Me, It's Everybody, Children of the Empire, The Worst Is Done, A Given Thing. This album is absolutely crazy. You know, this folk, sultry voice that she has with this new art pop kind of aesthetic also blended in there with the ethereality of it with God Turned Me Into a Flower. That track is reminiscent of a Caroline Polachek track with Wise Blood's beautiful voice. It's amazing. It's so shockingly beautiful, and it is only aged better every single time I hear it.
Please do not be alarmed, remain calm. Do not attempt to leave the dance floor. The DJ booth is conducting a...
Lastly, we have what might be my favorite album of this year. I think this is tied with Demon Time for my top 2. But this is Renaissance by Beyonce. You know Beyonce. You know Renaissance. This fucking blew my fucking mind. This album, you hear the first track, and then an hour later you're like, oh, where am I? Oh, I just listened to the whole album, because that's how good it is. You need to hear it. I think it's a masterwork in album sequencing, the way every fucking track sequences beautifully into the next. So one track is done, oh, you hear the first beat of the next song, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta hear it now because it's so good. The 3-track run of Cuff It, Energy to Break My Soul is crazy. If you haven't listened to this album and you don't want to, listen to Cuff It, Energy, and Break My Soul in a row. Don't pause. Have the transition run through. It's fucking mind-blowing. Dude, I can't. The transitions on this thing are fucking crazy. And just every song is so quality, and even the ones that aren't as good as the others are so backed up by the way the album just flows to where you don't even mind. You know, tracks like Thick, All Up in Your Mind, America Has a Problem aren't as good as the other ones, but like you don't fucking care. And then they're followed by fucking Pure Honey and Summer Renaissance, which is 2 of the best songs ever. This album's fucking crazy. It is, I think it's a near perfect. I don't say it's perfect, but it's a fucking awesome. I love this album so much. And with that, that's the end of my album list video. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry again for rambling. You know, I'm not the best at talking about music off the cuff like that. I think I'm better in a written format. If you want to see more of that, more album reviews written, follow me at Billy Listens on Instagram, as well as follow my main Instagram. That'll also be linked. Follow my Twitter, my TikTok, stuff like that. If you really enjoyed this video and you'd like a better way to support me, then check out my Patreon. It'll be linked in the description. It's just Lampshade on there. It's $5 a month. It's the best way to support me. There'll be a few perks for you there. There'll be sneak peeks of future content. I might do a Discord server. I'll put your name at the end of every video. I'll try to set up more perks for that in the future if a lot of people are interested, but for now it's just a way for people to support me, because I don't make any money off these videos and it takes a lot of time. This video took me a long time to make. So yeah, I'm going to be linking a playlist, a Spotify playlist down below. It's going to have all of the amazing and legendary songs from this list, as well as some singles that didn't land on any albums or any albums that made this list. So just all my favorite songs from this year, every song that made this year special. So please go listen to that. Comment if you disagreed with any of my takes, comment if you agreed with any of my takes, and comment if I missed anything. Let me know. Yeah, let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you have any feedback, advice for my videos. I know I'm not the best. I'm new to this. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I love you. Have a great day, and go listen to music and go enjoy your life through music or through anything.